On this episode of Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery, I'm going to dive into why people want to pay you for your financial planning advice if you'll just let them.
Running a successful fee-based financial planning business is tough, and escaping the shackles of a commission-based financial planning practice is terrifying. When all you want to do is learn from those who know. Learn from financial planners who are there on the front lines doing it each and every day. What if you could just open their kimono and take a look inside to learn what works and what doesn't? Now there's a place where the secrets to running a fee-based financial planning business are revealed to those who believe. Fee-based financial planning mastery. Ease your mind.
Hi everyone, it's Scott Plaskett here, and thanks for joining me. In this podcast, you will learn what's working and what's not in the world of fee-based financial planning. In each episode, I'm going to open my kimono and let you take an insider's look at what's working and what's not in my practice to help you take your business to the next level. I've been a fee-based certified financial planner since the early 90s, so believe me, I know the challenges you're facing. So get ready to learn not from a teacher, coach, or guru, but from a colleague who's on the front lines just like you. And I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my email internet newsletter to get the most up-to-date tips on how to build and grow your fee-based financial planning practice by going to feebasedfinancialplanningmastery.com. Hey everybody, just wanted to touch base and let you know what's going on in my neck of the woods. Some of the things that I'm, maybe a bit of an update actually on some of the things that I've been doing. Go back a while back. I don't know how long it was actually now, but I know one point I talked about I had started running with 5-finger shoes, the barefoot running shoes, and my experience with the barefoot running is has been a great one in the sense that I really quite enjoy the whole physiology of the barefoot running. Problem was my calves just couldn't take it. That whole concept or the whole idea of landing on the ball of your feet, I don't know if I just needed to work up to it a little bit more or what. So I actually am starting to migrate or work up to it a little bit more. So what I mean by that is I've gone to what's called a minimus shoe or minimal running shoe. And that's actually made a huge difference, world of a difference for me. I'm able to still run my normal loop, so when I go for a run, I'll probably go for about, I think it's a 7.5K loop that I do when I go for my sort of training run. And running in these barefoot shoes, if you do land on a rock or something like that, you do feel it more for sure. But it isn't something that has caused me the problems that I had with the barefoot running. Although I really enjoyed the barefoot running, it just caused some real calf issues, and that's probably something it's probably common. I don't know. I haven't really looked into it too much, but anyways, I'm having a lot of fun with that. I haven't been on my mountain bike for a while. I went for a nice long ride the other day, and it was great. I actually put an audiobook on and went for probably just under 2 hours into this one area that I tend to ride around here. It's some really buffed out trails, and anyways, it was great. I had a wonderful solo ride, but I had my audiobook on, got through pretty much the entire book. I actually put the book on double speed. I don't know if I think I've mentioned in the past where I'll take my iPhone. And when you're playing something on the iPhone, you can, if you're listening to a podcast or something like that, you can actually increase the speed. You can make it from 1 to 1. You can go to 1.5 times speed. You can go to 2 times speed. And it's amazing how quickly you can just sort of blow through content. And your mind just kind of catches up. At first it's a little bit quick and a little bit weird. Sounds like chipmunks and so on. But when you get into it, you actually, I don't know. For this particular book that I was reading, Business Brilliant by Lewis Schiff, which is, if anybody out there hasn't read this book, it is my favorite book for the year. I actually posted that on the Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery LinkedIn group. I put a note out there saying, hey, what are your favorite books for the year so far? So I posted mine for the last couple of years, but this one for sure, Business Brilliant, is a great book. So if you want to get a copy of that, I'm putting a link to that in the Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery website under the recommended reading section. All the books that I recommend that I've read that I think are really a good book for all fee-based financial planners or financial planners and looking to run their business better, all those books are listed there. So you definitely want to check that out. The other thing, the Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery LinkedIn group is really, like I said in the past episode, really taking off. Lots of people are joining. They're joining on a regular basis. I'd say, pretty much every day we're seeing new people joining. So I'm really happy to see that. Lots of engagement. There have been a couple of strings of comments and back and forth. They've just been huge. I think there's one now. It's up to 32 different comments coming on one string. So really happy to see all the participation and the community building in there. And, really, really enjoying that because there's a lot of perspective that you can gain and a lot of, anyways, lots of insights you can get from other financial planners, like-minded financial planners from around the world. So definitely, if you haven't checked out the Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery LinkedIn group, just go to LinkedIn, type in Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery. It'll come up as one of the groups. Submit a join request. It'll come back to me. And we do require that you be in the financial planning industry, that you be a practicing financial planner is ideal. So I want to make sure of that just to make sure that we can keep the group pretty pure. The other thing is we've got the Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery Facebook page. And I'll actually encourage for those of you, depending on when you're listening to this episode, if you go into the Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery LinkedIn group, I actually put a poll question there asking how many people are actually on Facebook as well. So I just want to find out how many people are engaging in Facebook and using Facebook. We've created a Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery Facebook page, which we will post some regular content to. And so if you haven't liked that page, definitely go there and just bring that into your feed, and you'll make sure that you get all the updates that we provide through that. I want to give some shout outs now to some people that have just been communicating with me over the past little while. So I want to shout out to John R., to Tim L., Zach A., Brent A., Jody B., Marco V., and Andrew N. So thanks everybody for reaching out and communicating, asking questions, and just engaging with the community and with me, and I'm loving it. The other thing I really want to thank everybody for doing is the iTunes reviews. I really want to thank those of you who have gone to iTunes and given us a review. Now, iTunes, the reviews are kind of interesting because the reviews are per iTunes store. So you don't have one store for iTunes and then everybody's reviews show up in one place. So you might be in a certain country, go to the Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery podcast, and there's no reviews there. Well, that's simply because nobody from your country in that country's store has given the reviews. So I just want to give a shout out to, on a Canadian review, Sean Tugas. I really appreciate that. He says, well done, gives it 5 stars. He says, well structured and entertaining. Good tips on starting and maintaining a fee-only advisor business model. Many relevant general business insights as well. So I appreciate that. John Rarick in the U.S., he says, the most valuable podcast anywhere for financial planners. Scott Plaskett's podcast provides real lasting value for financial planners. He has freely shared his extensive experience, and I've received more practical advice and wisdom from him than anyone else in the field on how to run a successful, independent, fee-based financial planning practice. I look forward to following this podcast well into the future. Keep up the good work, Scott. I only wish that you were located in the U.S. and not in Canada. Well, I appreciate that, John. I mean, those comments are great, and I do appreciate the 5 stars on that. Todd Morgan, invaluable resource, he says, from the U.S. Scott is providing such hugely valuable service to young planners in the business. I hope to be able to meet him one day and tell him face-to-face just how much I appreciate what he's doing. You know what? That day could come. I would love that to happen. Who knows? Maybe we can have some meetup groups sometime, and we can, I don't know, if there's an industry conference, we can maybe have a special meetup day or something like that. So, you know what? I would love to meet people. I know in Canada here, I've been to some industry events and have met a few people who are listening to it in my local area here. But meeting up with other people from around the world is fantastic. We've got Stephen Barrett from Ireland, the best financial planning podcast around. I found found Scott's podcast to be a massive benefit to me, full of really great tips on how to set up and run your business. Scott makes all the mistakes so you don't have to. Scott also, well, I wish I didn't make all the mistakes, but yeah, you're right. All the mistakes I've made, I'm going to pass on to make sure you guys don't do it as well. Scott also really focuses your mind to really believe in financial planning as a profession. If you're a financial planner, you need to listen to this podcast. So, Stephen, I really appreciate that 5-star review. We've got another one from the U.S. from Marcio Silvera, and I'm sorry if I butcher any of your names. He says excellent with a 5-star review. Absolutely brilliant is Andreas Bierling from Mexico. I'm extremely happy. I found Scott's podcast, and I'm only on episode 14 at the moment. And this was a review he left back in January of this year. So where were we here? Yeah, only on episode 14 at the moment, which perhaps should have been the first, but have so far extracted tremendous value as he is really detailed and methodical in the way he lays out his strategy for you to pick, choose, and adapt to your own business. He becomes like a mentor without actually directly mentoring you. A huge and frustrating problem I've experienced in this field is the reluctance through a non-expansive mindset by peer advisors to really share their approach in depth. I guess it's hard to find willing ears, and well, in this industry with quite a few large egos, it's normally just turns into a bragging session, literally with half-truths, and Scott refreshingly comes across as the complete opposite to this. Really good work and greatly missed. So, Andreas, man, dude, I really appreciate that comment. Anyways, it makes me really happy to read that 5-star review. Excellent content from John B. in South Africa. An excellent podcast covering all the topics any independent financial planning business should subscribe to, irrespective of the country you're based in. Thanks, Scott. Keep up the great work. Again, John, I really appreciate that 5-star review. And there's a lot more. I mean, there's one from the United Kingdom. From the username is Slapright. Like having a coach alongside, excellent content, and then goes into a really detailed list of all the things he likes about that. I really appreciate that. We've got Liam Ferguson from Ireland. We've got another one from the U.S. It's called UK New York is the 5-star review from there. We've got another U.S. one from Terrence saying thank you with 5-star review. Expert in his field from Money Plan SOS. So that's another podcast that actually I was interviewed on. If you ever want to listen to an interesting podcast, definitely check out Steve's podcast at Money Plan SOS. So that one was really quite an interesting one, and that was a great review that was left. We've got another one from GCFP from the US. So I appreciate all the 5-star review there and all the details you've listed. He actually went in and updated it. Started in 2011, which is great. He says, here's what he says. In December 2011, I'm rating this 5 stars on my delight that you created this podcast and the hope that it will be good. I've been looking for a podcast for CFPs for quite some time. I wish I knew that earlier. I would have started it earlier. I just downloaded the first edition, so we'll see. I'm an avid podcast listener, at least 3 hours a day to various, mostly educational topics. I congratulate you on the initiative and hope that the content is worthy. Now, fast forward about over a year now. So now this is an update, August of 2012. So after listening to these podcasts for many months, I have to say that they are worth every minute of my precious time. Although not all topics apply equally to my practice, in some cases I feel I have gone beyond the given advice. Sometimes it's good to get confirmation that I'm doing the right things. I have definitely learned from these podcasts and highly encourage other practitioners to take the time to tune in. I eagerly await each new issue. Wow, that's great. I mean, this obviously, when you put this together, you obviously found one of our first editions. If this was December 2011, basically that was when we posted it up there. I don't think we even publicized it really or made any mention of it until January 2012. So you were probably one of the first ones ever listening to it. So I appreciate that initial comment, and I really appreciate you coming back and giving the update there. So that 5-star review is very I thank you for that. Another one here from South Africa. It's amazing to be able to listen to a like-minded individual and be able to learn from Scott's wisdom. Most grateful for that. So they just keep on going on, and you know what? Anybody else? I really appreciate these comments. My goal with the podcast, I really would like to somehow, and I don't know how this happens. I don't know how to do this necessarily, but because there's no rhyme or reason for who gets it. But I really would like to try and get this podcast into what's called the new and noteworthy stream, so that we can gain some more attraction through from the financial planners around the world. But honestly, I have no idea what it takes to get there. I mean, I've got here, there's, a whole slew of 5-star reviews being listed, but I don't know what necessarily you have to do to get noticed on iTunes, because I've seen other podcasts that are brand new. They got 1, maybe 2 episodes. They show up. Maybe somebody else somebody who's got a very active podcast makes a recommendation, so people flock to it. But I've listened to them, and I don't always think that they're the greatest podcast, but somehow they get into the new and noteworthy. So anyways, I do appreciate that. I will ask if anybody hasn't left a review. I'd love the review, good or bad. I'm trying to read everything here. There's fortunately, there's nothing less than a 5-star review. Sorry, there is 1 4-star review, but and that was from the UK. Somebody put 4 stars instead of 5. I don't know. Anyways, that's just there. But yeah, I would love it if you could review it. I would love to just hear the feedback, and maybe we can get this podcast to be recognized under the new and noteworthy with iTunes. So, anyways, I just wanted to give a shout out to all those people who have done that. If you want me to go through and just list them all, I can do it on another episode. But I really appreciate that from all around the world. It really is encouraging, and just I hope that we can collectively all through this community really make this the financial planning fee-based financial planning really become recognized as a profession. I don't know if it'll ever get to that, but I think we can do everything we can to make that happen. So thanks everybody for that. I really, really do appreciate it. And now, you know what? Let's just dive right into the feature segment.
And now for our feature segment.
I mentioned it earlier that one of the interesting things that I'm gaining from being part of the Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery, all the groups on LinkedIn or the Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery page on Facebook, or, through the comments and communication back and forth with the community members, are some of the commonalities in the concerns that they're all facing, and there seems to be certain common themes or threads that come through. Concerns, things like things that I would call those niggly little things that get in the way of your progress. Well, this is why when you sign up for the free report, the Insider Secrets to Running a Successful Fee-Based Financial Planning Practice, I'm going to follow up with you. If you go to the Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery.com website, this is where you can get the report. But I follow up with you a few days afterwards with one simple question for you. And that question is basically asking you to share with me the one thing that's getting in your way or stalling your progress. I ask the question because chances are I've been there before. I feel your pain, and I know how frustrating it is to not have the guidance of somebody. I also remember when I first started out in the business that I had nobody to turn to, nobody to ask for guidance or assistance or simply to gain different perspective from. And it was especially important to me to get that guidance from somebody who's actually been in the trenches or lived in the trenches or actually still has a foot in the trenches, because they gain perspective that nobody else who's never been in the trenches really, really has. Which is always one of the challenges that I have with some of the so-called gurus out there, the talking heads that go through the seminar circuit. I don't oftentimes really think that they're on my level or have any idea what I'm really referring to. They've got this interesting study or research, but application of that is what's important. So unless they've actually proven it in their practice, then I really don't have a lot of time for it. So anyways, that's just sort of one of the rules that I live by. Anyhow, keep that in mind when you send me that email. Okay, when you respond to that email that I've sent you about what are those little things. What is the one thing that's stalling your progress? And if you could just deal with that one thing, that life would be so much better. So I want you to send that to me. I really, and if anybody has, if you remember receiving that email from me when you did sign up for the report, or if you haven't signed up for the report, then I will send the email to you. But if you haven't sent that email to me and you've been thinking about this one niggly little thing that's kind of stumping you, definitely send me a note. Say, listen, here's the one thing I'm challenged with right now that I'm working on. Because what it does for me is it gives me a chance to gain some perspective as to what the group and the community and everybody who's listening to the show is dealing with and frustrated with. So then it gives me a chance to take a look at that and say, you know what, if there's a commonality, a common question or problem that people are facing, I want to deal with it on a podcast, because chances are, if those people are verbalizing it, or electronically verbalizing it, so to speak, then there's probably a lot of people who just are thinking it and just aren't taking the time to reach out to me. So I want to get that information and do what I can to get it back out there. So when I see that common issue, I'll do that. So ways you can do that, please go out there, join the Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery LinkedIn group, join the Facebook page, the Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery Facebook page there, and like it, and you'll get the communication pieces through that. You can always communicate with me through that and comment on that. Participate in the discussions, in the community, working, because with this community, we can really, if we work together, we can deal with some really challenging issues that this industry is facing and come up with solutions that I think are the right solutions and that work in practice, not because a lawyer says that it has to be this way and compliance says it has to be this way. I mean, that's where I find the most humorous in what they do from a compliance standpoint, because they're obviously not working with clients when they design some of the compliance issues. But anyways, I really, definitely participate and communicate with me through a lot of those different channels, and we'll see if we can't make this industry a lot better, if not for the industry at whole, but at least for this community. And it's a lot of fun to do. So one of the issues that I've been seeing come up time and time again in various ways is the challenge that you as a financial planner have when it comes to charging a fee for your services. So it seems on the surface that if you could just figure out a way of getting the client to see how the value of what what they're about to get will totally outweigh the price that they're going to pay for it, really, as a financial planner, your prayers would be answered. And this really gets to the heart of the issue, doesn't it? Clients are simply asking you, or not directly asking you, but they're basically saying, hey, what's this worth? And how do I know it's worth that? And so the real dilemma is, how do you get that information across to them? How do you make them realize what it's worth, so that they can say, hey, geez, that's a steal. For getting all that service, that's an amazing deal. Now, I'm going to do my best here to get to the heart of this issue, and I welcome any and all comments on the website for this show, or when we post this the show on the LinkedIn group or on Facebook or whatever. If you have any comments there, definitely wherever the easiest place for you to do the communicating is, then definitely take advantage of that. So let's start and dive into this issue. So I want to illustrate where I see the problem being. Okay, and this is really done we're just going to go through a bit of a simple case study, or imagine this scene. So you're meeting with somebody, or they ask you, you're at a cocktail party or a conference or something, and they say, so what do you do? Basically somehow you're communicating with them. So it's that initial point of contact that I'm talking about here. Now, you're having your first meeting or encounter or whatever with them. So you're now talking about your services. And really the conversation, in my mind, it always tends to go like this. In my experience, you're going to bumble through some sort of I don't know, maybe it's an infomercial or a commercial or something, a little 15-second thing that you've put together that says, okay, this is what I'm going to tell everybody. When they ask me, so what do you do? My response is going to be this, because this is going to then hopefully, stimulate a conversation and prompt response. Okay, so basically it sounds something like, well, I'm a financial planner. I work with clients to help them realize their dreams. Or you say something like, I'm a financial advisor and I create millionaires, or something along those lines. You've sort of honed or crafted your 30-second commercial or whatever it happens to be. In essence, you're trying to position what you do to be something that will not scare the prospect away. I mean, ever notice how people are no longer calling themselves insurance salespeople or insurance agents or mutual fund salespeople anymore? Well, I mean, they're doing this because they just don't want to be seen, because there's a stereotype that comes around that. They're trying to say, well, what do I do? What do I put together? And honestly, it's something that I don't necessarily struggle with it anymore, but it is something that's always I've been challenged with. And it's because I feel that there's almost like you've got to kind of adapt it a little bit to each situation. But anyways, that's what the traditional scene kind of is. Then maybe that person who you're talking with will share with you some of their concerns with their current, their investment portfolio. Let's say it's an investment issue that they've got. So boom, there's your in. That's what you do. That's what you start talking to them about. You say, so, when they say, so what do? You might then ask them to tell you a little bit more about their problem. And, if they're talking about investments, say, well, do you own mutual funds? Do you own individual stocks? Whatever. Until finally they respond with something. Then you become that person, or that you take that sort of advocate role, and you begin to tell them how you or your company has this great, whether it be process that will help them build a better portfolio. And then you tell them that, not only do you build better portfolios because of, reason X, Y, or Z, but you tell them that you do financial planning also, because you want to sort of be seen as that financial planner. So that you tend to kind of bumble through that sort of thing. But really, that's your in when they say, well, investments, or nobody's making money these days, or whatever it happens to be. You come back with some of these responses. Well, now at this point, the discussion may start to fizzle a little bit. So if you've gone through and said, well, here's what I do, and I can build better portfolios and whatever. Well, sometimes they, it's like, oh, okay, and then they change the topic or whatever. But let's say you're able to convince them, to meet with you, or you gain a little bit of rapport there, and so it does kind of prompt the discussion a little bit, go a little bit further, and they say, you know what, maybe we should maybe have a conversation, or I've heard some things that you're working with so-and-so, maybe it's not a bad idea that we get together. And you say, great, let's get together and chat further. Why don't you bring with you then copies of your most recent investment statements or insurance policies or whatever you're most concerned about, and we'll take a look at them, closer. Then they come into the meeting and put it in front of you, and they give you their account statements, and you look at them and say, okay, you can definitely help them, because some of the funds they own have pretty either poor track records, or have had some recent manager changes, and you're not really comfortable with the new manager, or there's some seems to be a high level of correlation between a handful of the funds that they've got, and so this is attracting more volatility to them and causing problems. And you're looking at a lot of the funds they own, and maybe you see there's a lot that have high MERs, so this could be the cause of some of their frustration and underperformance, or whatever it happens to be. This is what you tend to do to try and justify your value, or to express your value to them about what it is that you do. Now, most product advisors will focus here on the products that they offer, because this is where they get paid. So this is where they want to show how they add value. But some more astute product salespeople will try to migrate clients over to their kind of plan. And I put the term in quotes, because I don't necessarily think it's necessarily planning, but they call it a plan. So what they do for a client is provide them with a comprehensive financial plan that will tell them everything that they need to know about how to meet their financial goals. And they talk about they'll tell them how much they need to put aside into an education fund to educate their kids. They'll tell them how much they need to put aside each month in order to be able to retire comfortably. They'll tell them how to enhance the tax efficiency of their portfolio, maybe to help them get a higher net rate of return or an after-tax rate of return. They'll tell them how much insurance they should buy to properly protect their family. All this is what the plan puts together for them. Or they'll ask their clients for further information. So they say, listen, these are all the things we can do for you, and so here's what I need from you in order to put that analysis together for you, the free plan that we're going to do. And honestly, that's where a lot of challenges come up, because now you're asking clients to go dive into their filing cabinets or whatever and pull all this information. And some people have this information readily available, but not everybody does. And so it takes some time. Challenges arise when trying to get all the information, but a little bit of persistence and, eventually you can get all that information in. Then the plan presentation, that meeting then comes because now you've got all the information. You said, okay, I've taken the information. I kind of have a good idea of what you're trying to do. Let me put a plan together and we'll get back together. So you as the planner then, you've put in hours and you've analyzed their situation. You've really done a high quality job. You've mapped out their best scenario, to allow them to accomplish their financial goals. Maybe they want to retire early. They want to educate their kids, buy a vacation property. You've put it all together. You've got it all mapped out and you've spent time on it and you've got this great document that really has all the answers. I mean, it's probably just an awesome plan. Then over the course of an hour and a half, after that, now that you're sitting in front of this particular prospect and you're meeting with them and you're going through the results, you're reviewing the entire plan and you've put together an action list or a to-do list of everything that needs to be done in order to implement the plan. It lays out everything everyone needs to do, whether it be you or whether it be them. You've shown them how to rebalance their existing retirement accounts to transition, and I put that in quotes again, transition the assets into a better portfolio. You've indicated how much they need to start contributing on a monthly basis in order to help fund their retirement. The resulting contributions, they're not only going to, get them on their way to their retirement plan, but it's also brilliant because you're getting some tax savings for them. You've opened up a government-sponsored education plan and you've set up monthly contributions. You're saying you should need to put these contributions in, and because of the extra grants or the money you're going to get from the government, it's going to help pay for the education plan. You've put together a nice investment portfolio for all those monies that you're for the education plan. You've put the goal of buying a vacation property. You've said, listen, you're just going to have to put that on hold right now because maybe your mortgage is too high, and it just, you might strap yourself. So you're really, giving them that advisory approach, saying, maybe it's a great goal. We're going to put that on the shelf, but we're not going to really focus on it now because there's more important things, I think, or more pressing things you need to focus on. You're going to recommend from an insurance standpoint that they purchase some term insurance and properly protect their family. But, the great thing there is that you've said, okay, listen, you've got this term insurance. You're going to kind of warehouse it a bit with the hope that in the future you might be able to get that converted into some permanent need coverage. You're recommending some living benefits, some long-term disability, some critical illness, maybe some long-term care discussions. You've made some outlines that you need to put this in place and this in place. And I mean, you've nailed it. You've totally put together the most amazing roadmap for that particular client. And it's really, if they just follow the advice, it's boom. They're going to be on a really good financial track. So after you've shown the brilliance of your solution, you then ask them how they wish to proceed. And what do they say? Wow, that's a lot of information. Thank you so much for putting this all together. We're going to discuss it further and get back to you. What? I mean, get back to me. What's to discuss? I mean, the answers are all there. This is exactly what you need to do. But they're just not ready to move forward. For whatever reason, the response tends to be, we're going to think about it. Now, it may not be the exact way things go. You may have some people who will say, you know what, that's great. I like this. I really want to get this done. Let's get the investments done. And perhaps some people will actually implement a few of the suggestions, and even better, maybe they'll even implement them with you. The problem is you've provided them with tons of work and received little value up till now. I mean, really little value for the work that you've done. So if this is the traditional approach, how then does one who wants to migrate over to a fee-based approach, how the heck do you add the step of charging a fee to this process? I mean, in this approach, it's just not possible. And it's not possible because to do so means that you're risking all of the product sales that you've identified. Because if someone doesn't want to pay the fee, then you don't even get a chance to sell the product that you need to sell in order to make that money. So there's too much risk on your shoulders as a financial planner. So you're kind of trapped. You've got the allure of the fee-based financial planning, how great it is, and it looks like such a great business model. But for the life of you, you're thinking, how the heck do I do I do this? But, the risks are just simply too high in this model to then just simply add in a fee-based financial planning section or a fee approach to it. It becomes this real, call it a very stressful, anxiety-ridden process or transition that you would need to make. And so you're kind of lost. And so oftentimes what I find happens is people just get frustrated. Financial planners just get pissed off and they get frustrated. They're like, you know what, this financial planning, this fee-based stuff, this financial planning stuff, screw it. I need to pay the bills, and I'm going to just keep my business running, and I'm just going to ride it for as long as I can and see what happens. Well, there's a better way, obviously, and that I promote, but I just wanted to sort of identify for you and highlight for you the way that I see the traditional approach. And it's, roughly like this. It could be a little bit different, and you may have a different take on it and have some different experiences, but I don't think I'm too far off with this approach. So, what do you do? So here's the reality of our industry right now. There are a lot of really, really talented people who are not getting very well paid. I mean, the planner who put together this financial plan has probably done a fantastic job. I mean, a really top quality job, but they're not getting paid for it. So there are a lot of what you and I may consider, not very talented people, and they're working the system and they're selling as many products as they can before their clients leave them. And they're actually making a decent living from a revenue standpoint. So obviously there's no link between being smart and getting paid for it. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show you how to bring that link together, because we've seen them. We've all got the people that probably pop into our mind right now. If you're thinking of that what you might consider a not so good financial planner, useless financial planner, whatever, and they just seem to be making a lot of money. It's just, you scratch your head and go, this can't be. It can't be this way. There's got to be a better way. Well, I think there is. So what do we do? Okay, so now you're probably a bit pissed off, and I apologize for doing that. I apologize for bringing you down that frustrating road where you're kind of reliving that frustration, and I didn't want to sort of add salt to that wound. But the reality is you're probably a bit pissed off, and you're thinking of of some of your competitors who you wouldn't trust with a 10-foot pole, who are making more than you, and you're just frustrated. So let's now talk about how to make it work for you. Because the mere fact that you're part of this community, that you're listening to this podcast, tells me that you're interested in doing things right. I don't ever want anybody to take any of the information that I share with them here, any of the psychology that's behind a lot of what we do here, and use it for bad, for evil. Only use it for good. It's powerful information. Only use it for good. But unfortunately, there will be some people that will use it for bad. And anyways, hopefully we can make it so that doesn't happen. So I'm going to first of all start by revealing for you why the frustrating scenario I just painted for you is set up to fail, and why it's so stressful for the financial advisor executing it. Okay, so going through that process, what you're doing from a financial planning standpoint or from the advisory standpoint is you're trying to do what you need to do to motivate the client to implement something. Now, obviously, you get paid for that, and that's if you're on a commission-based model, that's where you need them to in order for you to get paid. But obviously, you're doing it from a perspective of, look, this is what I think is the best thing for you. But you're not spending time. I mean, you've also got a business to run, and so you've got to find a way of doing everything you can in the most efficient way possible. Because if you can be more efficient at closing clients and generating the revenue, then your hourly rate kind of goes up, doesn't it? So that's where you're kind of focusing right now. But so what I'm going to paint for you now is why this method that we just talked about is so stressful. And it does kind of grind on you a little bit. I know, because I've been there years and years and years ago. Before I was, really had figured out this fee-based financial planning stuff, I was in that, just basically selling stuff for commission. So I've been there before. So the analogy that I want to use, and I'm going to share with you an analogy. Now, I didn't develop this analogy. It was developed by probably one of the smartest guys I know when it comes to marketing, a really smart guy. His name's Dean Jackson, and he created this analogy. And I'm just going to relate the analogy that he's put together, but I'm going to relate it to our industry. So I'm going to sort of take what he's said. I'm going to use some of the information that he's got, but I'm going to relate it directly to the fee-based or to the financial planning world. And it's an analogy that can be related to any industry, but I'm just going to talk about it in the financial industry, okay? And it's something it's I'm not going to say it's new, but it's fairly new. So this is going to evolve as time goes on, and you might hear me coming back to this a little bit time and time again. Basically, the analogy, it deals with mice. Okay, so mice are kind of interesting creatures. They're used, and oftentimes in testing purposes to test how things, how they'll react. Because the human brain is very similar to, or a mouse's brain is actually very similar to a human brain. Only it's a lot smaller. So they use mice because they can get a lot of, results as to, well, how would this affect a human? But they can do the testing on mice. So then let's take a look at a mouse. So Dean says that a mouse has two prime directives. The prime directives are to get cheese and to avoid cats. That's it. And you know what? I think he's right. If you extrapolate this to humans, that's exactly what our prime directive is. Our prime directive is to get pleasure and avoid pain. So now that we can all agree that, on the prime directives as humans to avoid pain and find pleasure, we can use this to see how the traditional approach we've been taught is totally flawed and attracts stress and anxiety as a result. When a mouse comes into a room, what are they doing? If they, just picture a mouse running into a room. He runs into a room, and what is he doing? He's sizing up the room to find the cheese, but he's also making sure he's going to avoid any cats. Okay? So when a human walks into a room, they're doing the same thing. So you get introduced to someone and they ask you, what do you do? As soon as you say you're a financial planner, what happens? What do they think? Cat. Anybody in the financial industry or who's in sales, instantly they go, cat. Oh, there's a cat. You got to watch that. So their guard goes up. And knowing this deep down, and trying to find a way of minimizing your catness is really the key to what I'm talking about here, of who you got to reduce the catness of your cat-like attributes. And really you want to look more like cheese, because the mouse, remember, is just looking for cheese, but they're trying to avoid the cats. But really what they want is the cheese. So you say, well, I work with people. This is the response that you give to people. I work with people to help them realize their dreams. In other words, I provide cheese. That's what you're trying to do. So if you can get them to see you as cheese, you can invite them into your office for a meeting. Well, that's a very stressful process, because you're having to do all this stuff to sort of orchestrate. You've met them, you're talking to them. Oh, I got to make sure they don't see me as cat. I got to find a way of making. It's just very stressful, and there's like this big formula that's in your head that you're trying to work out. What's my phrase going to be? And I'm going to plan it in advance. What's my little 30-second infomercial or commercial going to be? And you're always trying to make yourself look like cheese when people are reading in the newspapers and hearing on the news that the financial industry is full of cats. So they're coming to your office. Let's say you're successful and you're able to get them to come to your office. Okay, so you've sort of toned down your catness, and they see you, as a little bit more cheese, but you know what? They still kind of know you're kind of a cat still. So, but they do come into your office for an initial meeting. What's the experience? Okay, so when they walk into a traditional office, and I've seen it because and if you talk to any of your wholesalers that are with any of the investment companies, or, anybody who sort of travels around to visit with financial advisors, just ask them what's their experience when they walk into other advisors' office. So they walk in, and in many cases, there are, references to sales awards, top of the table plaques, product pieces all around. Well, what does this scream? It just screams, hey, everybody, I'm a cat. You see, you ask them to bring their statements with them. Okay, you say to a prospective client, okay, when you come to the meeting, bring your statements with you, and we'll take a look at those and see if there's something we can help you with. What does that scream? It screams cat. I'm a cat. It screams, I don't care really about you. All I care about is to find out how much you have, so that I can find a way of putting it into stuff that I have. Well, that just screams cat. Okay, are you getting the picture? You see where I'm going with this? Why would anyone ever pay you to go through this process? Okay, why would anybody pay you a fee to just go through that process? I mean, putting it this way, I'd rather punch myself in the crotch repeatedly than go through this process as a client. Okay, so we've got to find a better way of doing it. Now, let me give you an example. of how to be more like cheese and less like a cat, to use Dean's so eloquent, analogy. When you think about what you need to do, you need to orchestrate the delivery of cheese at every stage of your marketing. Okay, so I'm going to run through the various stages of that sort of the marketing process, the general top line, sort of high level marketing process. And in Dean, when he talks about this, he talks about what's called what he calls for businesses, you've got a before, a during, and an after unit. And he lays out what he calls his 8 profit activators. Now, this is all Dean's stuff, so I'm not taking any credit for it, but it's applicable. And I'm going to, as I say, I'm just going to take it and I'm going to apply it to our industry, because I think you can really take it and apply it. And if you kind of get it, you're going to see how the fee-based financial planning process that we've created really just speaks right to how we want to be seen as cheese, and we are cheese, and we're going to give cheese, and we're just going to make cheese, and we're going to, because when cheese is out there, people are going to ask for it. People want cheese, they want the pleasure, they want that, so they're going to start asking for it. So I think of it like it's kind of like one long conveyor belt. Okay, so you've got this process, and I talk about this in some other episodes and other pieces. People aren't wanting from you a financial plan. What people are wanting from you is a financial planning process that you can take them through. Okay, so I look at the process and I say, okay, look at it like a bit of a conveyor belt. You're going to go through each step. You're going to go through different departments, and at each stage, things are going to happen. You can go left, you can go right, then you come back onto the main conveyor belt. So that's kind of the visual that I like to paint. Now, we're going to sort of go through all of these different steps and just sort of outline them so that you can gain some perspective, because you've just been through, I've just explained to you what the previous, the traditional approach is, where it's very stressful for everybody and it's almost like this battle, that you've got to go through. But in this case, I'm going to show you how you can turn yourself into cheese. So step 1 is really, I've talked about it before, is choosing a target market, being able to niche down who you want to work with. Now, I'm not saying you need to niche this down and say, okay, my business is going to only cater to this particular niche, like dentists or whatever it happens to be. But you can say, okay, for this campaign, I'm going to focus and niche it down to this particular target market. Okay, so it starts with choosing your target market. So in this example, let's choose retirees. Now let's narrow it down a little bit more and say, okay, I want to choose retirees in Toronto, or however you want to say it. I want to choose retirees in Toronto. Now, let's go even narrower. I want to choose retirees who live in Toronto who are living in the beaches. Now, let's choose retirees in Toronto who live in the beaches, who are dog lovers, who happen to walk their dogs on the boardwalk every day. You see how we've just narrowed it right down. So now we're going narrow and deep. And you can play with this a little bit. You can start to bring in your own hobbies. This is where I think building this process around an extension of you just simply adds to your cheesiness, if you know what I mean. Anyways, so narrow your focus down so you can really target into a particular market. Now, step 2 is now you need to compel those people in that target market to call you. So how are you going to do this? Well, you're not going to start going out there and just start talking to people. You're going to offer them cheese first, because when people see cheese available for them and there's no risk of a cat being around, they're going to go for it. So let's say we create, and I'm just making this stuff up, you want to create a free report revealing the 4 common financial mistakes retirees in the beaches are making right now and how to avoid them. And maybe you make mention on the cover saying, and the easy fixes. In this report, you're going to get the easy fixes that will allow you to walk your dog on the boardwalk for years to come without the mental anxiety that comes from these 4 common financial mistakes. So you see, now we're saying, okay, and we're wanting to talk to these people. And to get this free report, visit www.thebeachesfinancialfixes.com or something like that. You see what I mean? You see what I've done here is we're creating a piece of cheese that we can now give away with no risk. So if you're a retiree and you have a dog and you walk on the boardwalk each day, how could you not resist this offer? I mean, how could you not resist this? So now what you've done, you've created that cheese for them. And what you've also done is made your target market stand up and identify themselves. So now you can start to promote this through, targeted Facebook ads, targeting on Facebook, targeting on mail drops. You can do a flyer drop, whatever it happens to be, advertising in the local paper. There's lots of ways of getting that offer for cheese out there. So step 3 then is to motivate your prospects to want to meet with you. So how do you do that? So, you've got somebody who is who's requested the free report. Okay. Well, now you're in the lead conversion process, and you need to remain in your cheese mode, because if you go too quickly, then they're just going to suddenly get panicked, and they're going to say, "Oh, wait, but the cat," and they're going to stop. But don't mistake their interest in your initial cheese, so the free report or video or whatever you've created, as them wanting to meet with you. Okay, you got to take it in stages. Nowhere have they said they want to meet with you. They're just interested in what you had to say. All they've done by requesting this initial content is identified themselves as someone who's interested in what you were offering at that point. And, you're not offering at this point any of your services. You're just saying, here's a free report that reveals the 4 common financial mistakes retirees and the beaches are making right now, and I'm going to tell you how to avoid them. That's what the report offers. So, okay. But now you're going to nurture these leads along using a process of providing them with further value. All right, you have to nurture them along. So ask yourself this question: if someone asked for this report, or you were getting that report, after you read it, what would your natural next question be? Right? What would it be? What would your natural next question be? You've just read the report on the common financial mistakes. Well, then you're going to set up an email autoresponder series. So have an email go out to them asking some rendition of the following question. So the subject line in the email will be their name. And the body of the email, and this is sort of derived off of Dean's sort of famous 9-word email, but it's going to be something like this. You want to sort of get them into an engagement. You want to somehow try to draw them out and engage them with a question. Questions are fantastic. So basically, you would send out an email saying, "Hi, so-and-so, would you say that you are more concerned with preserving or increasing your retirement income?" And then sign off. Now, don't tell them why you're asking the questions. There's some psychology behind this. You want them to sort of, I'm actually interested in preserving my income. I'm not too interested. I don't need to increase it anymore, but I really want to ensure I can preserve it. Well, what you're going to do is, regardless of how they respond to that question, and often you'll be amazed at how many people will reply to that email because it looks like it's coming from you. Well, you want to have a preset email response already set up for either response, whether they say, "Hey, I am concerned with preserving income." Okay, you want to have a preset response for that. Or they could say, "Hey, you know what? I need to find a way of increasing my income because interest rates have fallen and I'm just seeing my income dropping. So I need to find a way of increasing my income, but I'm not really wanting to take on extra risk." Okay, so you have those preset responses. And, for whichever way they answer. But you also might want to go back to them with this content and tell them that what you've found is that, in response to their questions. So let's say they want to preserve income. What you found is that people who are very concerned with preserving their income will find more confidence in knowing how their current level of income compares with what their attainable level of income is first. So when they find out that piece of information, they can glean a lot of they can get a lot of confidence, or it just gives them a lot of clarity on their what they're trying to accomplish. Because maybe people say they want to preserve their income, but what they don't know is, or if they want to increase their income, what they don't know is, maybe I can increase my income, but I'm just afraid to because I don't know what my attainable income is based on what my assets are saying that I've got. So you then say, and in the past, I used to invite people to, say, a seminar or something like that, where we go through the whole process to find out what your attainable income, so you can gain some clarity as to how that compares to your current level of income. But what you found is that people kind of wanted to talk about that information privately. So instead of having a seminar series, what you found was that you basically would just offer them a free, no obligation meeting to explain to them how they might go about finding out what their attainable income is, and you'll go through that process with them. So you explain that to them and say, listen, in order to help you with that, this is what I've found useful. Would you like to get together so we can maybe explore that a little bit further? Now, the nurture and education process, the sort of nurturing, it doesn't happen that quickly. It's not one email goes out and boom. You may not get somebody responding to that first email. So you need to have regular value, regular content being sent out. And you just set that up on an automated basis. So the nurture and education process, it doesn't happen quickly every time. I mean, studies have shown that, of people who buy your service eventually, only 15% of the people who inquired about your service will do so within the first 90 days. Only 15%. Of the people that are going to buy, 85% of those people will buy your service within the next year and a half. So if you're not staying in touch with them, you're losing out on that 85%. Well, I tell you, automate that process. And so this is how I recommend that you sort of execute that step 3, which is motivating them to want to meet with you. So you can have that communication, because every so often they're going to reply, and it's amazing. I know in my autoresponder series, when people will just email me, they'll just reply to the email, and they start asking me questions. So it just allows me to start that communication. So then step 4. Your first meeting. Now you've got the meeting, okay? You've got them coming in. Well, remember, the cheese is the only thing that matters, okay? So in this case, I do whatever I can not to look like a cat. So I tell prospective clients, don't bring any statements with you. I don't want you to bring anything with you. I just want you to come in and I want to have a good conversation with you, because I want to look different. I want to look like cheese as opposed to the traditional cat. I provide them with a letter at the beginning of the meeting that explains, listen, here's what we're going to do today. We're not going to be selling anything. We're not going to be talking about any products. We're just going to be finding out more about you, for 2 reasons. One, so I can determine if I feel what we do is kind of in line with what you're looking for. But also, 2, it gives you a chance to find out if what we do is what you're kind of wanting from a financial relationship or financial advisor relationship. We also tell them that if we determine that we don't feel like we're able to we're the firm for them, like if we don't feel like we're the ones that we think can help them the most, we're going to tell them that. And we want to make sure that they're going to be okay with us. We want to get their permission to do so. And I also say, listen, and I'd like to hear at the end of the meeting, I'd like to get your feedback on whether or not you feel it makes sense to get together and for a second meeting to take a look at the details. And you know what? Everybody likes this approach. I went through this approach twice in this past week with 2 new prospective clients, and each time they both said, "Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I totally get that." So it's really quite nice, and everybody likes the approach. Then at the end of the meeting, if I do determine, it does make sense to get together and take a look at those details, so we can really get clear on what it means for you to move forward with our services, and for me to get very clear on what it is you want to accomplish. That's great. And then that's where I say to them, listen, then I want you to bring your information in. In the meantime, between those meetings, I'll send out a letter. I'll send out a letter saying, hey, I want to just restate what I heard from our meeting. What were the key points were, the key issues and concerns were. I want to restate that for you. All right? So that's sort of the during the first meeting, that's sort of the during phase of the before, during, after. You want to make sure that you're just leading them down the path and making it very, very, very cheese. Step 5, make it an awesome customer experience. So now you want to take a look at that process and say, okay, what happens at each meeting? Figure out a system to really wow your customers. Things like what we do. We'll track what they take in their coffee. So when they come back for a second meeting, it's already prepared for them. It gives our staff a chance to say, hey, glad to see you again. That was a coffee with 1 cream, right? Let me just go grab that for you. So it makes them feel like, yeah, I'm remembered. And you know what? Even if they know we put that information down, that's just shown as positive intent. We send them a follow-up letter after the first meeting, outlining all the details and the issues and concerns that were identified, and just make sure that we're on track with that and that we heard things properly. So when they come back for the second meeting, sometimes they'll say, you know what, I was looking at that letter, and these are the real key points that I want to deal with. So that's great. Now we're getting engagement going. You can reserve a parking spot at your office and put a sign out front and put each person's name on it. So, when they show up, they see that they've got a reserved parking spot for them. That's kind of a wowing experience. You just kind of brainstorm a bit and ask yourself, what do people love about your industry and what do they hate about your industry? And you can sort of do things that help people get away from the frustrations of the industry, but also encourage things that help people, embrace what they love about the industry. And as you identify opportunities through your financial planning process, as you identify those opportunities, you can, assuming they've become a client now, okay? Because when you get to the point where you've had the second meeting and you're presenting your fee, look at what we've done leading up to that point, okay? Look at the whole process now as opposed to the way it was in the traditional one that we went through originally. People have sought you out. They've gone to you for your information. They see you as a person of value. They see you as somebody, as a resource. And now if they're coming in and they're meeting with you, they actually are telling you, listen, I really like what you've had to say, and I'm comfortable now coming in to meet face to face. Well, we've sort of brought down all their barriers without having to actually do anything. And they're actually calling us. So, just keep that in mind when you're going through that process. And then when you get to the point where you're at the end of what I say at the end of your second meeting, which is where you want to be presenting your fee, presenting that fee is kind of a logical next step. So people won't find it odd all of a sudden that you're saying, okay, now we charge a financial planning fee, because somewhere along the line, they're going to realize that you're charging a fee. Whether it be just in passing or whether it be off your website or something, you want to make sure that people see you as that fee-based financial planner. So making it an awesome experience for them. So when you identify the opportunities, so one of the other things you don't want to do is kind of overwhelm them. You want to lay this process out a little bit more so that you can say, listen, we're going to deal with your financial plan. During the financial planning process, we'll identify opportunities. When we do, we'll get back together and deal with those opportunities in detail, so that people can always know where they're at with things. And that's where our tracking system that we use on Salesforce, that allows us to track all those opportunities so we never lose them. Make them see the value in the planning meetings, by discussing with them, discussing their attainable retirement income, their attainable retirement age, their required rate of return, their required contribution rates. So, having discussions around that just gives them the freedom to dream a little bit. If you come to them and say, listen, your attainable retirement income is $70,000 a year, yet they've told you they only need $50,000, that's a good conversation to have. And that's part of the process, because you say, okay, well, now the question is, maybe you could retire early. If 50 is really all you need, maybe you can retire early and start your retirement earlier. Okay, that's kind of interesting. And so anyways, you can see how it just garners some really good conversations. If their required contribution rates, this is one I think is very, very powerful from a planning perspective. Because remember, financial planning to me, it's not about telling people how much they need to save for the future. It's telling them how much they can spend today to enjoy their life today without sacrificing their future. There's a bit of a different perspective there. So if their required contribution rates are lower than what they need to put in order to accomplish their goals, you as a financial planner, you have a responsibility to ask them, why then are they contributing more than they need to, as opposed to using that cash flow for today? Okay? You need to ask them to explain why they're contributing more than they have to, okay? Because you as the planner need them to recognize there's no use being the richest person in the nursing home. Okay? Think about that a little bit. Now, move on to step 6. Provide after-sales service even after you've been paid. Okay? This one is classic, and this is a classic frustration that people have with the industry, is that people, they get their portfolio managed, boom, they're in, and then they never hear from their advisor again. Are you serious? I mean, It happens all the time. So continue to deliver an amazing experience for the client even after you've been paid, and you'll take things to a whole new level. Regular annual or semi-annual progress reports and review meetings and all that sort of stuff. So people will just value, especially when they come in and they don't have a bill to pay necessarily, because the way I recommend it is you set it up on an annual retainer fee. Excuse me, just had to grab a little glass of water there. Now, nurturing, step 7, nurture lifetime relationships and focus on lifetime value. Okay, so stay in touch with your clients with regular, electronic newsletters, paper newsletters, birthday gifts, milestone birthday gifts, recognition for certain events, that sort of thing, client appreciation events, all that sort of thing. Put some time and money and resources into the nurturing of your existing clients, and you'd be amazed at how much comes back from that. And then step 8, orchestrating referrals. By providing your clients with the wow experience, you're setting yourself up really well for referrals. Now, you can go and you can be as direct or indirect as you want, but the bottom line is, understand that when somebody's going to refer you to somebody, they're doing it for their own reasons. They're not doing it because they really want to help their friend. That is part of the motivation, but what their main issue is, they want to look good in front of their friend. They want to be able to say, hey, go see my guy, go see my financial planner, my girl, my however they refer to you, go see mine. And when they come back and go, wow, that was awesome, thanks so much for referring me, that just makes them feel good. So set up systems that can not only make the new client feel good, but also systems to nurture the referred, or so the referral. Not the referred, the referrer, the referrer. So the person who made the referral in the first place, set up a system to nurture them, put together a referral reward system or something like that. And then when they do refer somebody that becomes a client, send them out some gift certificates, send them a thank you card, send them a gift card for dinner at a restaurant, something, just do something nice for them. So you see how where the following approach, or where the approach that we just talked about, always setting things up from a cheese perspective as opposed to a cat perspective, really just helps the relationship along, and it just makes things so much easier because now people are seeking you out because they want what you have. When you outline for them that financial planning is a process and not an event, you yourself will begin to look like cheese and not like a cat. Your mindset needs to change. All the traditional approach that we've all had, that we've all been taught. You need to get out of that mindset. You got to get out of the product mindset. That's totally cat. Anything product based is totally cat. And you need to move to the education mindset. That's totally cheese. And one last thing, and this is critical, very critical. And I touched on it earlier, but I just want to really, really emphasize this point. Only use the information that I'm talking about here, the psychology behind all of this, for good, not evil. Okay? Don't just use it to orchestrate and structure things so you can just sell more product. There's got to be some good karma here. Okay? So do it for good, not evil. The strategies that I'm talking about are powerful. However, if you're going to use it simply to become a wolf in sheep's clothing, then shame on you. And shame on you for the rest of your life. You can't do that. It's just bad business. It sucks. You shouldn't be in the industry. But please remember, our job is to motivate clients to do the right thing. However, sometimes we need to use psychology to help encourage them to do so. What we do is important. As financial planners, we have life-changing roles. We have, what we do is extremely important. Educating them and motivating them to do the right thing is not easy, but it is necessary. My belief is that we need to expose our clients to every risk, educate them on those risks so that they can make an educated decision on how to protect against those risks. That's not a pushy salesperson. That's an ethical financial planner. All right? So focus on that. Do the right thing. I don't know how many of you have had the experience where a client who you've you've done all the financial planning for, and you did a good quality job, suddenly has to use one of the safety nets that was built into their financial plan. Maybe a spouse dies. Maybe there's an injury, an illness, or something like that. And if you've done your job, it feels so good to be able to say to them, you know what? I am so sorry to hear that this happened to you, but I'm really happy to say to you that now this income is going to continue for the rest of your life, or whatever it happens to be, or whatever. I mean, we're dealing with some pretty sensitive issues here, especially on the risk side. Make sure you don't skip or overlook any of the risks associated with your client's financial affairs. And if you're not, if you are in the business of just dealing with investments and you're not talking about insurance, fine, that's not a problem. But just make it clear to them that you're not talking about the insurance, because they need to realize, okay, well, this guy's not doing it, so I need to find somebody who does, or at least refer them to somebody who does. Same thing on the insurance side. If you're only selling the insurance and tend to focus on that, you're not doing the investments. Again, you've got to find the people you can refer to for that, to make sure that people are getting the best that they can. So, use this analogy, use this information to help you through your process, to find that way to bring in the ability to charge fees into your practice. It's a much better business model to go on a fee-based approach, to have the full transparency and whatnot. For those of you who are, who do like the financial planning, following this approach brings on great clients. People always ask me, well, how is it that very few of your clients ever leave you? Well, it's because we make sure we bring on the right clients to begin with. So anyways, so that's where we're at. So I'm gonna sign off with something that is very cheesy, but it's basically, I want you to get out there and, dare I say, build yourself a better mousetrap.
You've been listening to Scott E. Plaskett, a certified financial planner and industry veteran in the world of fee-based financial planning. Want free resources to help you build a better fee-based financial planning firm? Visit ilovefinancialplanning.com right now to register for Scott's Inner Circle email list, where you'll get front-of-the-line updates on the latest resources that are driving profits to Scott's fee-based financial planning practice. All of the resources are pulled directly from the highly acclaimed fee-based Financial Planning Mastery Academy. Go now to ilovefinancialplanning.com. Build a better business and make more money with your fee-based financial planning practice today.